United States men's national team win their third straight match at the Gold Cup. Charleston Battery, #1 on SportsCenter's top 10, and is the FIFA president pro-rel for USA? That and more on Monday's Morning Kickaround. The sound of Franz Beckenbauer means one thing. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's most favorite country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Thank you so much for being with us here on a Monday morning. How you doing, Jason?
I'm good. The U.S. winning makes me puts me in a good mood, makes me happy. We'll see what it means for the rest of the Gold Cup. Obviously, there's lots of soccer happening, lots of discussion, lots of things to dive into on this show. I think we're going to aim for some bonus content today on a Monday, Robert. We got a special thing we can talk about. Soccer influencing fashion in other sports. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Is that a good tease? Do people understand what I'm so soccer styling when it comes to these shirts that we all love so much has now infiltrated officially other sports, and I would love to review that, because we're the soccer people. Like, we get first right of criticism, right? When it comes to like, oh, they made football team soccer jerseys. Yeah, we get to tell you whether those are good or not. So if we can get some support from the chat, from the ultras in the chat today. So a couple, what did you say? 3 new members? Is that what it? Three new members. Or if you want to jump in with a super chat, membership is not your thing, and you just got like $5 or something you want to throw our way, we will do that. We will do a bonus review of the NFL soccer jerseys if we can get to 3 memberships or 5 super chats in today's episode. And as soon as I hit the button here, we should be good to go on the super chat goal. So you'll see that in the chat. You should see it. If you don't, let me know. Whatever. There it is. Go.
Yeah, show your support for the show, and we will provide more show to you. Morning, Greg in the chat. Remind everybody that are watching that this is an interactive show, so get your questions, comments, jokes, all that into the chat, and that helps make this show even greater than it is.
Can I say something about Greg? I mean, Greg, become a member, because I would love to just get your chat in here every day. But Greg's got I got a 4-year-old. I don't know how old that child is on Greg's shoulders in that I'm assuming that's Greg in his avatar. But I need to get one of those. Like, take the kid out to the game. We're celebrating. We're supporting the team. That is a great genre of photo. I just want to point that out. Shout out to Greg.
Yeah, shout out to Greg and to all the viewers out there. If you want to support the show, first up, hit the subscribe button at the bottom of the page. Next step, become an MK Ultra, and $3.99 is all it takes, and you can get priority commenting on screen. You get early access to videos. You become part of the show with those comments, and then you get bonus content, and we want to make bonus content. Just a little bit of support, and we will make that bonus show for you. You can also get access to the Discord with your $3.99 a month contribution, and the Discord chat. We got local, MLS, international, and general topic threads in there, and the conversation is getting richer with every new member that joins. You can find us on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, Blue Sky. Write us a note at morningkickaround@gmail.com. If you want to support outside of the YouTube bubble, coffee.com/morningkickaround. And we got some donations over the weekend through the coffee.
Nice.
So thank you to everyone who's contributed over there and continues to do so. So thank you to everybody. And one final note, you can find us as a podcast. Search Morning Kickaround on your favorite audio platform. All right, let's kick some long ball, shall we? Here, let's get the show rolling here on Monday's Morning Kickaround. Welcome into Morning Kickaround. This is long balls, and our first long ball of the day after the third win in a row. Not many of those for United States men's national team supporters, so feeling good in the morning. Last night's game, maybe not the most consequential in the world, but they took care of business. A 2-1 result over Haiti. Tillman and Ajamang scoring. Ajagang in the house. So what did we think about this one? I got a couple questions. Who's going to stand out? Maybe in further tournaments later in the show. But for now, we'll focus on USA 2, Haiti 1.
Okay, so I want to be positive, right? They won the game. And is that not the point of
That
sports?
is the point. That is the point. No one remembers the finals of World Cups when they didn't play that well.
I mean, right. I mean, it's not about how you play, it's whether you win in almost every case, particularly in tournament football, tournament soccer, which this is.
Yeah.
That being said, there are some, there's some concerns here. They weren't very aggressive in the first half. Look, maybe because they didn't need to win the game to advance, that's a little less incentive to take risks, to go forward, to try stuff. It got better as the game went on. I did think, obviously, Brendan Aronson, nice ball to Malik Tillman, who scores that opening goal. And Tillman otherwise was very good, had a number of opportunities, probably should have finished one that he put wide when he tried to chip the keeper after getting put in. Obviously offside. I think once handball and a ball kind of hits his shoulder and goes in, and they take it off the board. There were some not so great things about it, but they won, and I can take that and put it in a box and put it on my shelf and not look at it anymore. I don't need to. It doesn't necessarily inform the next game. It doesn't necessarily mean anything for what happens in the rest of this tournament or for this team moving forward into September and beyond into the World Cup in 2026. So Ajamang scoring, good, confidence boosting goal for a player that we kind of want to see break out a bit. Malik Tillman, who's been the star for the U.S. in this tournament, good for him. Great stuff there. They will play Costa Rica in the next round, in the quarterfinals, after Costa Rica played to a draw with Mexico last night. That will not be an easy task. I watched the first half of that Mexico-Costa Rica game. Costa Rica could have taken the lead, could have scored goals, could have won that match. So there's an opportunity here for the U.S. to test themselves against better competition. And the goal remains, go win the thing.
It sure does. Well, the one big drawback was obviously Haiti getting on the board. I kind of want to ask both the MK Ultras and you, Jason, who was to blame for that one? It was kind of there's maybe two parties involved, but I want to see who's more to blame.
Let's ask the comments. I mean, let's ask the chat. I mean, who do you think was responsible for that goal? Because you could obviously, you're going to say Matt Freese. Matt Freese he's the last one to touch the ball before it ends up on a Haitian foot, right? Which obviously ends up in the back of the net. Is it just on the goalkeeper? It doesn't matter what your defender does. It's on you to figure it out. Did he need to play the pass he tried to play, or could he have just lumped it out, right? Safety first, that kind of thing. Even though, again, there is a little bit of a mix-up in terms of the messaging when you're constantly saying, play out of the back, play out of the back, play out of the back, maintain possession, don't give it away easy, don't give it away cheaply. That's what happens, particularly with a young goalkeeper. And how many caps does he have? This is like his third cap. I mean, it's not
many.
Fourth, fifth, something like that, because he played in January. I mean, that's it. But Tim Ream should know better. Tim Ream should know better, right? He should have known that was not the pass to play in that moment. He could also have turned around and cleared the ball. He didn't have to play it to his goalkeeper under pressure. Obviously, the ball is bobbling, so that's a thing. So bobbling ball, under pressure, not the best decision by Tim Ream. And I think I'll go with Nate here. 40% grandpa, that would be Tim Ream. Although he's a cool grandpa because he's got a ponytail, and only cool grandpas have ponytails. And 60% freeze, or fries, I guess. We're calling him that. And I think that's probably fair. That's probably a good way to split the responsibility.
I see. It's funny. I go the other way. I go the experienced one should take the brunt of the blame here. If Ream just conservatively puts it out at a touch or tries to turn away from the goal, I think that's a non-issue and nothing happens. You don't play it back to the goalie and there's no problem. And funny note, while I was watching this game, my children, 9-year-old daughter said, "Is that the discount Erling Haaland?" when they saw Tim Ream on the screen, which I thought,
discount Erling Haaland, even though he doesn't play remotely the same position.
He
He doesn't look like Erling Haaland at all. It's just the ponytail. It's just the hair.
The observations of a 9-year-old.
Okay. All right. Sorry, my mistake. I'll give a 9-year-old a pass. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, my 9-year-old is not familiar with the positioning and the tactical nuance of Erling Haaland, but so looking forward, United States get into the knockout rounds, 3 straight wins. They face Costa Rica next Sunday. So Costa Rica, has been a spiky CONCACAF foe in the past. Will they be this time?
Yeah, it'll be tough. I would favor the United States to win the game. It's in St. Paul and the Minnesota United joint, whose name escapes me at the moment. So, could there be a solid American showing in terms of support? Yes, that should help. The U.S. will be favored, but Costa Rica is not a pushover, and it'll be tough.
All right, moving along to long ball number 2 here this morning. Club World Cup is on our shores, of course, the second weekend of play. There's been a number of teams already eliminated. Plenty on the line here today as the final groups play their third games. Inter Miami just about through, but need a result and nothing crazy to happen in any of the other games. But over the weekend, lots of games happened. Were there any standout, games or results on your radar?
Well, okay. How about this? Is this an American soccer program or an American soccer thing, right? That's what this is?
We are. That's what we do.
Officially, I think officially speaking, we're an American soccer thing. As an American soccer thing, I will again express my distress that a certain American player involved or on the roster for this competition, Giovanni Reyna, did not play again for Borussia Dortmund. Now, that game was maybe not as easy as they would have liked. It ends up being a 4-3 result for Dortmund over Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa. But what did Giovanni Reyna do that he can't even get on the field in this competition in his own country? He can't even get some sub minutes. Rob, what's going on?
Yeah, not even, that's wild now that you put it in those contexts. Not even like garbage time, like get him like a little bit of a hometown clap. Nothing, not even that, not even some charity minutes. That is pretty wild that like he is just not gonna play. So what is his level? Where is he gonna land? I mean, does he need to like play it for like Preston North End or something? Like where's his level now?
Here's the catch-22 of this, or like here's the tension in my brain. Giovanni Reyna is not playing in Dortmund. He seems to have run into this problem over and over again where he cannot convince his coaches to play him. So why should I talk about him? Like, why should I bother even giving him attention? Like when the United States men's national team is a year out from a World Cup on home soil, and we've got a version of the team playing in the Gold Cup right now, and we know there are players like McKennie and Weah and Pulisic who are not here, but would likely be in a team, obviously are going to be in a World Cup team if healthy. Giovanni Reyna might not be there because he isn't playing. And it might not be about, we always like, well, if Giovanni Reyna is healthy, he's in the national team. Is he though?
Not anymore.
Like, is he now? Would he be, if he was available, would Mauricio Pochettino have called him up? Like, I honestly think that's a very good question. Remember that Poch just benched Matt Turner because Matt Turner's not playing. Oh, let's give Matt Freese a look. Yeah, Matt Freese made a mistake against Haiti. Right now, I have no reason to think Matt Freese won't start against Costa Rica on Saturday because he's been the guy that Pochettino has turned to. And he said specifically, Matt Turner's not playing. He needs to play. Now, maybe Matt Turner's move to Lyon is going to get him playing time, and by the World Cup, we'll have a different question to goalkeeper. But when it comes to Gio Reyna, the better Malik Tillman plays in this competition, the less likely it is that Giovanni Reyna makes the World Cup roster, because you'd have Malik Tillman maybe as the guy, and then you have Diego Luna, who's impressed in this tournament as well. I don't know.
It is a bit of a head scratcher. Like, what would he actually have to do? Would he have to play like 30 games and score a dozen goals to get back into the conversation? You'd think he'd have to like lay a season-long performance that is gargantuanly bigger than he's ever produced before.
I don't think it's about numbers. I don't think that Pochettino necessarily is going to be like, well, he has to meet this metric or that metric. It just has to be consistent. Now, he's obviously got to be decent. I don't think a dozen goals, not in the position that Gio Reyna plays, is realistic. But if we're talking about, 5 goals, 5 assists over a season where he's playing 1,500 minutes or something. Like, okay, now we're talking about going into a World Cup with some wind behind you and actually thinking he doesn't have to go from a cold, a cold resting position to playing at the highest level or playing at the highest international level in a World Cup next year. So, and now you mentioned like what needs to happen here. Like at this point, we are break glass in case of emergency when it comes to Gio Reyna. Again, I don't even know how to talk about it. And I know there are probably other YouTubers and other commentators out there who are saying like, Giovanni Reyna would be a great fit in this league or that place. And Jetman is saying that Brazilian clubs may have interest in him. Man, do it. I don't even care at this point. I mean, Major League Soccer has always been this like, well, don't come back from Europe and go to Major League Soccer. You'll hurt your career. We're about to see if that's a thing for Luca Della Torre, who's been in the lineup in the Gold Cup. Does that mean he's better off playing in San Diego and being in the Gold Cup roster to bolster his claim to be a World Cup player next year? We don't know. But Gio Reyna might as well go on loan. I mean, I don't know how the money would work. There's always that question, but go on loan somewhere. Go on loan somewhere where you're good enough. There's no question that you have to get time because they don't have better players. Because at Dortmund, they have better players.
Also, watching that Dortmund game, I got tripped up with the Bellingham call. My brain hadn't caught up yet to Joe Bellingham being in the continental conversation, but that was an interesting watch in Sunday's action. Speak up and interrupt me if any of these kind of tickle your fancy here. Juventus 4-1 winners over Wydad Casablanca. Man City 6-0 over El Ain. Madrid 3-1. Salzburg 0-0. Not a whole lot going on Sunday. Anything?
Well, I thought you were still giving me results. You're just waiting for me to say something. No, I mean, like, I think that, if you want to be kind of cheeky about it, you could point out that Manchester City playing Al Ain of the UAE is effectively a derby match. Could say it that way. It's a the money is coming from the same place, right? So that it's an Emirati derby between Manchester City and Al Ain. And obviously Manchester City slightly better, 6 goals to the good. Erling Haaland, who does not look like Tim Ream, scoring from the penalty spot. Oscar Bob getting involved. Okay, that's what we're doing for Manchester City. Obviously, they made that signing of Ryan Cherki. I think he's going to be very good. Ryan Cherki's talked about he wants to use Manchester City as a platform to go win a Ballon d'Or. Like he's not being shy about his ambitions in Manchester. So, we're not to a serious point in this tournament yet. We have seen some big teams play one another because of the draw, but we haven't seen them play one another in a knockout format. That is still to come. So I'm curious to see when we get there. I don't know what we got coming up in the Club World Cup, Rob. What's notable on the match list at this point?
Today, Club World Cup actions, Group A and B. So winless Porto take on Al Ahly, Inter Miami taking on Palmeiras this evening at 9. And like I said, the two top teams playing each other. So Porto would have to throw up some crazy goals to challenge Inter Miami. So that's probably most likely going to see Miami progress to the knockout stages, the lone MLS progressor, if everything goes like normally this evening with Inter Miami.
Okay, so you say that. Obviously, I mean, I'm assuming, and again, this is new for everybody, but the first tiebreaker is not goal difference. It is, I believe it is head to head. Is that right? Maybe the chat knows. People are up on this. First tiebreaker is teams head to head records. So if two teams in a group are level on points, decide that one their match finishes higher. If the head to head result was a draw, they cannot be separated by goal difference or goals scored in their head to head. So the decision would go straight to group wide metrics. Overall goal difference followed by overall goals scored. Okay. So, because traditionally you would look at this and go, okay, Inter Miami's on 4 points. Porto and Al Ahly are on 1. If one of those teams win, they'll be on 4 points. If Inter Miami loses to Palmeiras would be through. Inter Miami would be on 4 points, and one of those other teams would be on 4 points. And then we're talking about, again, tiebreakers. So Inter Miami beat Porto. That obviously was massive for them because if Porto beats Al Ahly and ends up on 4 points, Inter Miami will be through. So that's why we're saying maybe effectively Inter Miami is kind of already through, because even if they lose to Palmeiras, Porto cannot beat them on tiebreaker. Al Ahly and Inter Miami drew in the opening game 0-0, 0-0. Inter Miami's on +1. Al Ahly's on -2. So in order to overcome their deficit in terms of the tiebreakers, then Al Ahly would have to put up a big number against Porto, which I don't think is likely. So there you go. That you're right. It looks like Inter Miami probably is through, Rob. But that you look at the rest of this for Major League Soccer, that's to come in terms of the third matches for those other groups. But LAFC has lost both their games. Seattle has lost both their games. Those teams are out.
Yeah. Do you think that what can Seattle do? One final note on Club World Cup. So Group B, a little bit more in the mix. Atletico Madrid taking on Botafogo. Seattle hosting PSG. Madrid and PSG both contending for a spot still here in this final group match day. Seattle obviously out, could possibly play spoiler. What could Seattle do to rescue any sort of hope here for this endeavor?
It does look like they're running into a buzzsaw here. I hate
death, to be fair.
Oh yeah, no, it absolutely is. And I hate to say it this way, but of course it'd be nice if they didn't get embarrassed. And look, I'm not a Seattle fan. I got no, it doesn't matter to me whether the Seattle Sounders win or lose or whatever, except we're all in this position because of where MLS is in the world. And we're going to talk more about MLS's future thanks to Johnny Infantino later in the show. But we're all at this point where somehow, some way, every MLS performance reflects back on American soccer fans, whether you want it to or not, or whether you're an MLS fan or not. I know some people try to separate themselves. I live in America, but I'm not an MLS fan. MLS is trash. I had somebody in my Blue Sky mentions MLS is trash. All right, brother, if that's what you believe, good for you. Don't watch it. But remember that American soccer is tied up in the fortunes of MLS, especially when it comes to this kind of competition. So everybody is going to judge MLS on how the teams do in the Club World Cup, unfairly probably. Inter Miami could get through the group. That would be an achievement, and that would be something. And therefore, it wouldn't be a disaster across the board. But it would be nice if Seattle at least held their own against PSG for a while. Like if they lose 6-0, that's not great. It's not great for MLS. I don't know. Remember, PSG beat Atleti 4-0 and then lost to Botafogo. So I don't know what to make of that. And then you've got LAFC, who I thought was, okay against Chelsea, got beaten, and should have done better against Esperance. So there you go.
Yeah, that penalty really will be, the LAFC will be ruining that missed penalty chance. And you'd say, I saw a comment too, that outside of Auckland, the semi-pro team from New Zealand, that MLS might have been the worst performer so far. I don't know.
Oh, well, I mean, who else has 3 teams or more in the competition? I mean, it's Brazil, and they're all doing relatively well, right? Pachuca has lost twice, and they get Al Hilal in their final group stage match. So we'll see if they can maybe save something. Monterrey has drawn twice. I mean, that's not disastrous, but I think they've scored 1 goal in 2 games. I mean, they have played Inter Milan, who they drew. That was the opener, and they drew with River Plate, and that's not great. So I don't know. I mean, I don't even want. That's the thing. I don't want to get drawn into that. And this is an interesting question from Jetman. Do you think fans of teams and leagues that non-favorite team are rooting for the team in the? Okay, so what I think he's saying is, if you are a fan of an Italian team that's not in this competition, do you care if Inter Milan or Juve do well or win at all? And I can't speak for Italian football fans, but I would guess no. I would guess they probably don't care, or they would prefer if those teams fall flat on their faces because they're the rivals within the league, right?
But I think there's going to be a lot of a pissing contest to a degree. If all the Italian leagues teams got absolutely smoked, then that would reflect poorly on the level of the league entirely. Yeah, I'm sure they're not rooting for them to win the whole thing, but they don't want their team who finished above them to be embarrassed.
But Robert, this is. So, and this again, okay, I'm going to lean on the chat. Thank you guys. You're so smart. Andy, probably depends on the dynamics of the domestic league. Now, in that regard, just to say, in Italy doesn't have the resources of some of the bigger leagues in Europe, even though they're a top 5 league. So probably if you think about it in those terms, if you're an Inter fan, you think about in the league's health, if you're thinking at that level, you might want the Italian teams to do well, whatever other Italian teams do well. If you're a Napoli fan, okay, you want Inter to do well because it's good for Italian football, and that will lift Italian football, and that presumably lifts Napoli's ability to go win a Champions League or whatever. But MLS fans are in a very different boat, right? We're the little brother. We're still trying to figure it out. We don't know how, we're young and we do things weird, and we're looking for validation all the time. So that.
Moving on to long ball number 3, Major League Soccer, not in action this weekend, but USL was well underway with a full slate of games over the weekend, most notably so in Charleston's Nanan Hasu, number 1 on SportsCenter's top 10 plays on Saturday night with a half field goal to get the 4-1 result. And I got to say, it made world news when David Beckham hit a shot like this, but at least it made the SportsCenter top 10.
I don't know how relevant the SportsCenter top 10 is anymore. I mean, of course, the USL should celebrate this. I'm not suggesting they don't. And maybe it's because I live in the soccer bubble and because it's my job now and because, I'm going to do this show and then I'm going to go do life things because that's when I have free time. And then I'm going to go do a radio show tonight about soccer. And because because of that, I don't engage with, say, normal sports culture as much as I used to. I'm not watching ESPN, but I do know that used to be a big deal. It used to be a massive thing to make the SportsCenter top 10. And, if it's good for the USL to get a little bit, I mean, again, so this is what Graham is saying this about MLS from our last conversation, but it's true about USL. Rising tide lifts all boats, right? You want more attention for the league because it benefits the league. And, maybe all of this kind of just puts another brick in the building that is USL moving forward because Pro-Rel is part of their future, it looks like.
Yeah, Charleston Battery, top of the East, getting a 4-1 result. That half field shot, the final of the 4 goals against Phoenix Rising.
Who's bad, by the way. Phoenix Rising is bad. That's not a good team right now. So not that half field, not that shot or that goal is made less because of that. I'm just pointing out Phoenix is not good. We're used to Phoenix being good, Rob. That's why it's surprising to me.
Well, we lambast the playoff system in Major League Soccer for allowing too many teams into the playoffs. You could say same is arguably true for USL Championship because I believe Phoenix Rising in 5th in the Western Conference.
This is why I need to recheck my situation. They started poorly. Yes, they've had a run recently that I wasn't aware of. So my apologies to all the Phoenix Rising fans. It's gotten a lot better. They've improved. I know that there were some changes that happened in Phoenix. Maybe that's what maybe that change has lifted this Phoenix Rising team. But yeah, again, Charleston under friend of the show and former Detroit City FC manager Ben Pierman has been the class of the Eastern Conference alongside Louisville City for a couple seasons now.
And notably, with Detroit City getting a 2-0 win over Miami FC. Las Vegas Lights came across the country to beat Indy 11 1-0. Pittsburgh Riverhounds 2-1 over the last place Tampa Bay Rowdies. I think it must have been the Riverhounds that put that social media content up of memeing all of the various Rowdies that have been pictured on the Rowdies badge. So if you guys want to laugh, some inter-club banter online. That was pretty fun. Rhode Island lost to Sacramento Republic, who came a long way across the country. Charleston Battery 4-1 over Phoenix. Birmingham Legion lost to Oakland Roots. New Mexico United, big 4-2 win over San Antonio. They are top of the West, rocking the United gear there, Jason. And then the final match on Saturday was Monterey Bay being defeated by El Paso Locomotive. So a lot of traveling in the USL Championship this weekend.
Rob, I appreciate you putting some sauce on that one. That's definitely not how they say that in California. I know. The team, first of all, there's only one R in the middle, right? It's not like Monterrey of Mexico. There's only one. I think they just say Monterey. You don't even say the T. You just say Monterey.
Monterey,
California. Yeah, I think that's how that goes. I don't know. Maybe Californians can correct me on that.
That's our long balls here for Monday. Coming up in the show, we are going to discuss Gold Cup players that could maybe break their way into the World Cup roster. And we're going to talk about Johnny Infantino being pro-rel for USA. But before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button. Doesn't cost you a darn thing. no spam, no nothing. You just help us out on the other end of this YouTube video. And if you've done that, you want to do more. $3.99 is all it costs to become an MK Ultra member. $3.99 a month gets you priority commenting, gets you in the mix of this American soccer conversation, gets you access to the video sooner than everybody else, gets you access to bonus content and access to the Morning Kickaround Discord server. So do so if you haven't done so yet. Coffee.com/Morning Kickaround. Another way to support. You can name your donation over there. You can find us on social media at MKickaround, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com.
Yeah, reminder, we've got a goal, super chats. If you want to hit that up so we can do some bonus content, a little bit of fashion review on some NFL, some soccer-inspired NFL shirts, which is a wild thing. But I got some history to talk about with that, too. We get to 5, we'll do that. But also, if we get to 3 members, if we get 3 more MK Ultras, don't cost you much. Sign up, become an MK Ultra, get some bonus content today, get access to a bunch of perks and all those things. So there you go.
Half an hour of the show left, plenty of time to get those donations in, and we'd love to make a bonus video for you. We're going to take a breath, sip our coffee, come right back with our hot topic here on Monday morning. Hot topic here on Morning Kickaround. It is Monday, June 23rd. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. After the group stage, 3 games in, a very consistent lineup from Mauricio Pochettino, and we've seen more of these players and what they might be capable of under you could still call him the new coach and his portfolio so far. I'd still say it's just now getting past the honeymoon period. But after 3 Gold Cup games with more of consistent lineups, which 3 players might we see next summer contributing in a big way?
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, I think you could cheat with this question, Rob, and you could say Chris Richards. He's going to be in the. I mean, yes, we should expect Chris Richards to be a major part of the World Cup campaign next year. You could. I even think it's a little bit of a cheat to say Malik Tillman. Now, is Malik Tillman a starter for the United States? I think he could be at times. I think it depends on the opponent and the game and the situation, right? That could be a thing. I do expect he'll be in a roster. Like Malik Tillman's a talented enough player, and if you read what Pochettino says about Tillman, I think he's very high on this player. No reason to think he wouldn't be in a World Cup team. A little bit of a cheat to pick him out of this group and say, that's a guy that's going to be at the World Cup next year. It's kind of a duh. So I think there are a couple of other players who maybe deserve more attention on this front. Players who, when Mauricio Pochettino took the job, you wouldn't have said, oh, that guy's going to the World Cup for the U.S. men's national team. Definitely. And so in that regard, I'm going to start at the top with the guy who scored the winner last night for the United States against Haiti, and that's Patrick Agyemang. Now, I want Patrick Agyemang to be a thing, to have an influence on this team, because there's nobody else really that has stepped up and grabbed the center forward role for the U.S. men. I mean, you could argue about Ricardo Pepi, but for every player who's in that group, there is something that brings down their resume a bit, or brings down your excitement level about them. For Pepi, it's the injury that took him out and ruined his chances of being in this tournament or building something. For Fowler and Balogun, he got injured, left this team, but also didn't have a great season at Monaco and struggled a bit to get his feet underneath him in French football. You could say, well, Haji Wright got injured, left this team, unable to play, Achilles issue, I think is what it was, and not here. Josh Sargent plays very, very, very good soccer in the English Championship, and maybe he's got to move in him to the Premier League. We'll see. But he doesn't show up for the U.S. men's national team at the same level. He doesn't score goals at the same level, so it's hard to bank on him being the guy. Maybe Damian Downs is one for the future, but we haven't seen it yet, and he's playing in the 2nd division in Germany. Right? I don't even know if we should give him that much attention. And maybe Agyemang playing in Major League Soccer doesn't fill you with this great hope that he's going to be a World Cup goal scorer at some significant level, Rob. But he's got skills. He's got physicality. He does look a little out of control at times, but I think he's learning as he goes, and I got to be positive about that.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on the Ajuman call. Like, he's exciting, and you feel like almost anything good, bad, or ugly could come from him when the ball is at his feet. I have a little bit of a sinking feeling that he's going to be the type of player that scores and does really well against weaker opponents, but might struggle when they face some more quality. I don't think his speed and strength will necessarily beat out a lot of like top line defenders. Unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong, but like we said last week, he's like a 24-year-old that kind of looks like he's 18 in some ways. Like some of the control, and like he doesn't have that what I'm doing next before the ball comes to him thing. Like, he's getting the ball and trying to make it up, it seems like, in a lot of situations, which is exciting, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to equal high level success. But he's definitely good. I mean, we weren't talking about him before January really being in this mix. So it's nice to see a new contender into that caveat bunch of group of guys that are vying for that number 9 spot. But so far through these 3 games, we're talking about candidates to maybe progress and be contributors next year in the World Cup. I thought we were going to see more from Brian White, but he doesn't seem to be getting a lot of minutes. We saw Jack McGlynn earlier on. He only got some substitute minutes. I'm not sure if he's going to be like a starter by any means, but he's got his left foot and his abilities with that add another, just a weapon to the armor there.
If we move on from Majamang, who would be number 1 for me, I'll go to Jack McGlynn since you brought him up. There's another name on this list, but I think Jack McGlynn is a good shout because he is not a top level athlete, but what he does with that left foot and the decisions, the things he can do, the lack of predictability about what he's going to do is a wrinkle the U.S. needs. Now, I don't think he's going to be a starter, particularly when you're going up against, top 20 opposition, but to have Jack McGlynn on the bench, to bring him in the last 10, 15 minutes of a game, maybe when you need something different, a change of pace, certainly a player with the left foot who can cut inside and do something, certainly defenders have to be wary of that, and that could open things up in that channel, overlapping him as he cuts inside. Like, those things can be useful. So I'd like Jack McGlynn as a shout for this list as maybe number 2. Now we're just going to stay in the attacking area, Rob, because number 3 is Diego Luna. And I know that's not like a big stretch. People would say, oh yeah, of course. But remember, he wasn't really a thing with the national team until January. That's always of questionable value. We called it Camp Cupcake for a reason. Yeah, broke his nose and sets up Brian White, and everybody falls in love with him. And I know there are lots of fans who would say Diego Luna should be in this picture, should have been in this picture, should have been at the Olympics with the U.S. men's national team and didn't get a chance to go. And that's all true. But he had to do some work to get here. And I do think there was at least some question as to whether or not he could translate it. And let's be fair, it's not like he's played against top-level opposition that much yet as an international. And very few of these guys have. Ajamang hasn't. Obviously, Jack McGlynn hasn't either. So we're identifying potential sort of X factors for a World Cup team, not guys that we think are absolutely going to do it against, any European side of note.
I think it's an interesting shout to Diego Luna and how like we've almost already penciled him in, but yeah, he hasn't faced that super top line talent or defense or anything like that, but he has shown consistency and a ton of growth. He's been exciting to see him leveling up over the last year or two, but yeah, definitely still a question mark, even though we really like him. And in the game last night, there was a moment where he got the ball on the left and it looked like he had plenty of space to maybe take a left-footed shot or do something, and he checked back onto his right into a crowd of players, and that was the first time I saw him play recently where I'm like, is he limited there on his left?
Yeah, there's, everybody is a little less than complete. Everybody in this team, everybody in this group, that there's just not going to be there's not going to nobody in the and maybe Malik Tillman's at that level, but again, you're also going to say, look at the opposition. Again, can Malik Tillman do it against European sides? Can he do it against England? Can he do it against France? Can he do it against Germany? I mean, that will be also a function of the team and how they play. And there's still a lot of things to consider here, but I do think that those are the obvious candidates. So Ajamang, McGlynn, Diego Luna. Now, I guess it would be up to your interpretation whether you think Luca de la Torre completely drifted out of this team and wasn't in line for a World Cup spot, but now maybe has 1-1 back. Although I don't think he was great last night. I think that was his worst performance so far in the Gold Cup. He does some things well, and there are elements to his game that could be useful. I guess it kind of depends on where Yunus Musa is, where Johnny Cardoso is, who got some garbage minutes last night. Tyler Adams, who picked up a yellow card in the first minute of the game and then had to play safe for about 80 minutes. He doesn't bring anything. Well, that's not fair because he did get a little bit more adventurous later in the game. But he does for most of that match. He didn't bring anything moving the ball forward. Nothing. And I love Tyler Adams, the effort he brings, the defensive effort, recovering the ball. But if you can't recover the ball and then use the ball, or if you can't be a worthwhile outlet in midfield, you're effectively playing with 10 when you're attacking, when you're building out, because Tyler Adams doesn't give you anything.
Before I go to the comments, I want to remind everyone that we are waiting on, or if we hit the 3 new members or 5 super chats, we will do a bonus episode or bonus segment. So if you guys are in the chat and you want to see a bonus episode, memberships or super chats will get us there. Staying on the topic of some of these players here, we're talking about who is and who isn't going to be a contributor from this group next year. Do you think Tyler Adams is still a locked-in starter for next year?
No, okay, a starter. I thought you were going to say in the roster. No, I don't think he's a locked-in starter. No, I think that's a function of his injury problems as much as anything. They are not going to have a lot of time to sort of rep it out with Tyler Adams behind Weston McKennie and whoever McKennie is playing alongside. And that, could be Tillman. Obviously, could be that he could be that player in the midfield. So, but I do think that he more likely would work better with Weston McKennie. I think he will start games if he's healthy at the World Cup. He absolutely will. In part because, unlike against Haiti, there will be matches where the United States does not have as much as the ball, and you're really going to need that safety blanket in front of the back line defensively for the United States. That maybe was not as much of an issue last night. And again, when they were building out, they lacked ideas, and part of the reasons they struggled is because Tyler Adams isn't enough of a forward-thinking passer to provide danger. Haiti could kind of ignore him, again, until late in the match when things were stretched out and maybe the physical advantage of the Americans came to play.
Looking at the chat, and like I said, reminder, throw some super thanks our way or become a member for some bonus content. And Andrew Johnson says Arston greater than Tolkien.
Yeah, but that's picking between two pretty poor things so far. I like Arston in Major League Soccer a lot. He has not brought that level to the national team. I mean, he's been okay. He's certainly cleaner on the ball than Tolkien was last night. I mean, at least in that first half. Tolkien played himself out of touch several times when he had no business doing that. He did some other decent things in that game, but I think that's it's a flip of the coin for me more than anything. And I don't know that either. If I guess one of them is probably going to the World Cup. I guess one of them is Jedi Robinson's the starter at left back, Rob, but who's the backup is an open question. So maybe you're arguing one of those guys is going. And right now, maybe it is Arvston. Although Arvston, as much as Pochettino seems to like him, is not much of a defender. And that's not his job in Columbus.
Jetman 022 feel like Pat Ajame is a low floor, high ceiling. Size alone, great perk, but he needs more technical skills. Kind of reminds him of Jordan Morris. Another Ajame comment. He'll have more time to develop under Dean Smith, assuming he's not sold for the World Cup. Not sure if he would be on the selling block. I mean, he probably, with his resume, probably wouldn't be going anywhere too aspirational this early, but I mean, a year between now and the World Cup, I mean, that could be a lot of development there.
I don't know. I think there's been some heat around a possible move for Ajamang. It does feel a little Daryl DK-esque in that. And I could see him landing in the championship. And I could actually see him thriving in the English championship. I could see him scoring double-digit goals if he had a full season under his belt. Now, he's not going to get – I don't think he's going to get that. I don't think he's going this summer. And if he's not going this summer, he needs to stay in Charlotte. Although there is that question of, you get to the end of the MLS season, what does the winter bring? Does somebody maybe make a play for him? I don't know. Maybe that's the best case scenario if you want him to develop, now that I think about it. Maybe you do want him making a January move to go play in the championship to help a team either try to win promotion or stay up or whatever, and that leads into a World Cup. But that'd just be a long run of playing soccer at a physical level.
It sure would be. And I feel like if Ajermain does make it to the championship, it would add to the forward quagmire of all of them playing at that level, not necessarily knowing what they would do at the elitist of levels. But interesting. We shall see. Chat, continue the conversation. What 3 players could you see from this Gold Cup group making a large contribution at World Cup 2026? If you're watching this now and are not subscribed, just hit the button. Easy peasy, doesn't cost you a thing. If you want to help the show a little bit more and get a little bit more out of it, $3.99 a month is the membership cost, and you become an MK Ultra, become part of this growing community, become part of the American soccer conversation. You can also support on Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/morning kickaround if you want to donate outside of the YouTube bubble. And you can also name your contribution amounts over there. Thank you to everyone who's donated in either way. You can also find us on social media, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky under the name M Kickaround. And you can also write us a note at morningkickaround@gmail.com. All right, we got one more segment to go. Is Gianni Infantino pro rel for USA? We'll talk about it right here on Morning Kickaround. This is the big question here on Morning Kickaround. My name's Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Some interesting notes from FIFA president Gianni Infantino in The Athletic over the weekend. He was speaking at an event and some questions about United States as a soccer country and Major League Soccer as a leading league came into the conversation. And Mr. Infantino, the king or president of soccer across the world.
Is that what presidents are kings now, Rob? Is that what you're telling me? We might as well just call presidents kings. That's how this is going.
I feel the way that certain presidents are behaving, they are borderline getting to that region, but we don't have to dip into that conversation. The figurehead, the undisputed figurehead of FIFA is maybe leaning towards putting some pressure on Garber and Major League Soccer to maybe take the shackles of spending off and maybe introducing the promotion relegation.
Let's not conflate Gianni Infantino giving some lip service to the idea of pro rel coming to America as the same as him putting pressure on Garber and MLS. Gianni Infantino is a giant suck up. He is just a brown noser. He's the world's most prominent brown noser. He runs around making friends with autocrats and presidents who want to be king, and all he cares about is scooping up as much money and soccer influence as he can. And it's not just for him, maybe it's for FIFA and yada yada yada, but he's really just jet setting around the globe and being paid to be just this craven soccer idiot, I guess is the right way to say it. So I don't know that I would conflate it as pressure, but it is interesting. So this is from The Athletic, and we tried to find the video of him saying this. Apparently he said it at the Fanatics event in New York, Fanatics Fest. He said this to Jordan Schultz of Fox Sports. We couldn't find the video, couldn't even find the quotes in pure form. We've got copy here. But he said that soccer has the potential to soon be the, quote, #1 sport here in America, unquote. And that reaching the goal is one of the governing body's top priorities. One of FIFA's top priorities is pushing soccer to #1 in the United States. I'm going to tell you something. Sepp Blatter had the same goal. Nothing's changed. This is the same story. Now, maybe we're in a moment with the Club World Cup here and the World Cup coming next year that this is something, there is something maybe simmering. And obviously, look, USL announcing their intentions to create a first division league and then use Pro-L within their system, that puts more pressure on MLS than anything Gianni Infantino can say, because it has always been the policy of FIFA despite the fact that it's in their rules, their guidance for leagues around the world, right? That's what a lot of pro rel people would say. Like, it's right there, sporting merit, blah blah blah. They don't. Major League Soccer, American soccer doesn't follow it. They should be de-sanctioned by FIFA. FIFA will never do that because that defeats the purpose of making more money. And the United States is the most powerful financial engine in the world, and it's not you don't help yourself by desanctioning leagues. You help yourself by getting them further along, I suppose, the way that Johnny Infantino was talking about this. Now, he says in 3 to 4, maximum 5 years, Major League Soccer will be a top league in the world, one of the top leagues in the world, and I can tell you why, because now I'm here.
And you say this isn't? You saying this isn't a king? You're saying this isn't a king?
I didn't say.
I mean, maybe that's language barrier, but it's like, I'm here, so I'm gonna throw it on the table and make it happen. Is that what he's saying?
I don't know. I don't know what he's saying there. I don't know if he's saying like just by his presence, soccer will become bigger because Johnny's here. I'd be curious if we went downtown in any major American city, and we polled 100 people, how many would know who Johnny Infantino is
in the United States?
In the United States of America.
I would say 14% would probably be.
That's a very interesting, specific percentage you're giving us. 14 out of 100 people would know who Johnny Infantino is.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems a reasonable number. I maybe we want to do this. It does make me think of Chelsea doing the thing the Titans did years ago, where they went and asked people who didn't know anything about football to tell the schedule. I don't know if you've seen this video, Rob.
Yeah, those are fun.
The Titan one was so these people are like, I don't know what that logo is. That's the Honey Bears, and it would say Honey Bears August 3rd or whatever.
Yeah,
Chelsea did this.
And so you're saying put a picture of Johnny Infantino's.
Wait, hold on. Angus, one of our members, shout out to Angus. He's an MK Ultra. 11.5%, Angus. I said 100 people. How are we getting to 11.5%? That seems impossible.
The man and his baby were the last.
Yeah. Anyway, Chelsea did their fixture list video, and it had a bunch of people in New York, in Times Square, I think is where they did this, and nobody knew who any of the Premier League teams were. One woman said Manchester, and she was like half right because it was City. Anyway, whether I don't know if that's what he means. Like, just because FIFA is interested in America, suddenly that's going to push the sport to a higher level. I don't know. I mean, let's get to the pro rel comments, because that's really where this is, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the beauties of promotion and relegation. He was asked about Wrexham, by the way, and its popularity here in the States. So in soccer, unlike any other sport, surprises are happening, and the little one can beat the big one. And this rarely happens in other sports. 90% of the time, the stronger one wins. In soccer, it's 70% of the time.
So that's an interesting comment, because I've never seen a percentage put on that. It's like, does that like deflate the excitement balloon for sports in general?
What is he saying? First of all, where did he get this research? These numbers sound a little made up. I'm not saying they're completely out of bounds wrong, but he's not saying we did a study. He's just saying numbers. You have these surprises. You have these fairy tale teams. This is something you can bring in this American culture as well, where you don't have the concept of promotion and relegation. And there's something interesting that I think has to be explored. Look, he's not wrong. We want to see it happen, Rob. We absolutely do. Whether Johnny Infantino has the power or his comments mean anything towards a push in that direction, I'm skeptical.
Yeah, Mr. Hunt, shout out another MK Ultra in the chat. Infantino will do whatever gives him the most money, and seems very simplistic to say that, but that's probably where we lie here. And probably the fortunes of change when FIFA and enforcing those rules that we go on about pro rel and all those other things, those probably only get applied when the interests of these parties are align.
Yeah, can I also say something here? Remember that this is Johnny Infantino, who runs FIFA, who sanctions all the leagues, but really doesn't have any power directly in terms of club football, outside of what he's trying to do at this very moment, which is a Club World Cup, this expanded Club World Cup, massive event happening in America, trying to block off a corner of club football for FIFA, right? Because again, they are generally FIFA runs on the World Cup. The World Cup is FIFA's cash cow, biggest event. And because UEFA is the competition that or the organization that most kind of controls the money that flows in the club game via the Champions League, that this is just for me, and I know there's some argument about this in various quarters, but for me, this is just, again, FIFA trying to claw away some of the market share that UEFA controls with the club, with the Champions League. The Club World Cup is that. And because Johnny is one step removed from anything club football, it's easy for him to talk about promotion and relegation. But you could also see this as kind of a shot at UEFA on some level, because what is UEFA dealing with right now, Rob? UEFA wants to maintain their control. They want to maintain the Champions League. They've made some changes to assuage some of the concerns of the big clubs who constantly moan about their share of everything, right? But they also are fighting the Super League fight right now. And I don't know that we don't know that it's going anywhere, because nothing's really happened publicly for a while. But don't think that Florentino Perez and some of these other people involved in European football don't want to see a Super League. So, when Johnny talks about Pro-Rel, he doesn't have any direct say over this. But obviously, there is something, it's kind of wrapped up in all of the conversations that are happening in world football right now, particularly when it comes to the big clubs.
Well, we shall see how this all kind of plays out, but I'm not sure. Some people in the chat are pointing out, don't know if Johnny Infantino realizes that there's a USL plan from promotion relegation. That might have just escaped him completely. And I do like the chat of, those figures from Infantino, probably kind of sort of research that his American president friend, kind of how he does his research as well, probably pretty accurate. Well, and then, too blind to see USL will be bringing Pro-Rel before MLS even considers it. And that was part of what I was thinking with another topic for another day, is the MLS clubs going up for sale. And is that kind of a foreshadowing of, team owners realizing that the days of controlled spending and closed league systems may be on the horizon? Or is that reading far too far deep into the tea leaves there?
Yeah, I think that's overreaching in terms of the analysis. I mean, I think you've got circumstantial. The Vancouver sale is interesting. I know, what is the impetus for that? Why are those guys cashing out? Obviously, we just had the RSL sale go through, but that, again, is that specifically about the owners who were already there thinking that things are going to change on them and they're not prepared for that? It's I don't know. It's possible. It's possible that there's some of that to be considered here. I mean, again, in this is also in the world where Americans are sort of out there in world football. We didn't get to it today, but there's news that John Textor sold his 43% stake in Crystal Palace to Woody Johnson, which your blood should run cold, Palace fans, if Woody Johnson's involved in your football team. And the man does not have a good football record, if you know what I'm saying. No. And people always point to that and go, oh, Americans are investing in English football because Pro-Rel is better or something, or that has something to do. But there is still demand when it comes to MLS. I don't think you can judge value of MLS clubs the same way you would judge value of a house or something. I mean, right now there are 30 of them. There could be more. It's a very closed up shop. Does the values go crazy, like in a bad way if Pro-Rel comes in, or a good way perhaps for the lower divisions? Yeah, that's all possible. I guess I'm just not clear on whether we can call something a bubble if it consistently defies our expectations of how things like this should be valued. Right? When we look at the revenues for MLS teams and they don't measure up to any European team of a similar valuation, according to people like Sportico, we go, well, that doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, if somebody's willing to pay for it, it doesn't really matter. If somebody's like, well, I want to be part of the game's future in America because I like soccer, or maybe there's a real estate play. Again, that this is a major part, and it's always is used as criticism of Major League Soccer or soccer in America that so many of these teams to be real estate plays. But if I'm in a rising tide lifts all boats kind of mentality as a soccer fan, I want our leagues to get better and more money to be invested in the game. Then why do I care? I don't want cities budgets to be thrown out of whack because some billionaire doesn't want to pay for his own stadium, Rob. But I also do want soccer to grow. And if building a stadium is also part of some mixed use thing and we all benefit, okay, let's go.
Let's go. Indeed. The landscape constantly changing domestically and internationally. And looks like we're out of time. Got a bunch of follow-up questions for you on that, but we'll save that for later in the week. We got, of course, Wednesday and Friday shows to go. We got a great guest coming on Wednesday, and we can extend. We didn't hit our membership goal for the bonus content today, but I'll say we can, if we see that we get 3 to 5 more members today, you know, it doesn't have to be live. We'll rush to our computers and make that bonus segment. If we get those 3 to 5 members here.
I was so excited too. Rob, I was so excited. Look, we were going to talk about this. We were going to talk about this, but we're not now because we didn't get to our goal, but maybe at some point we will. Maybe we'll get there.
Yeah, so to support the show and to support this American town square of soccer conversation, doesn't cost you a thing. Hit the subscribe button below. Helps us expand our reach, get into more people's feed, and kind of help us grow. And if you want to take it a step farther, $3.99 is at what it costs to become a MK Ultra, a member here on YouTube, and you get prior access to commenting, early access to videos, access to bonus content, and access to the Morning Kickaround Discord server. We've got conversation threads from international, MLS, local soccer, lots of great chats in there. Shout out to our guy Hunt. Lots of comments today. He was giving us the lowdown about Lexington and actually a fun fact about what a railbird is. So that was a fun conversation in the Discord chat. So join up, help us support, and help us get this show to the heights that we want to take it. If you want to connect with us on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And we're also a podcast. So if you are a listener type person, search for Morning Kickaround on your favorite podcast platform. Got any final notes before we go our own and separate ways, Mr. Davis?
No, thank you everybody who's already supported us, and anybody, if you're on the fence, trust me, there's really good stuff coming. I do think that we are carving out our little niche. I mean, we're talking about the Gold Cup and U.S. men's national team and MLS and those kind of things, and we'll continue to do that. But I think we're carving out a nice little niche, you know, getting inside the heads of people involved in soccer at lower levels, and whether that's the USL Championship, like our conversation with Sean Mann last week, which I thought was extremely insightful as to how Detroit City FC is doing it and getting ready to build their own stadium, all the way down to high amateur, semi-pro, and things like that. We're hoping to grab some people involved in those levels of the game in the near future. I think we've already kind of dipped our toes into those waters. We talked about new professional teams launching in America with their ownership. So please support Morning Kickaround to get more insight into the entire pyramid of American soccer. There are things under our pyramid as opposed to the real pyramids. There are things under our pyramids.
No aliens here, though, hopefully. But yeah, go back and check out that Sean Mann interview. Some great insights, like about the application process for Division I, what they got to do to get their building site ready. Apparently, there's like 10 billion gallons of water underneath the hospital that they need to get rid of before that stadium goes on, and just the process of building a stadium, applying for a new league, and what do you do when preparing for a whole-scale change of implementation of Pro Rel, in the distant future or not so distant future as they try to build a stadium. So lots of good stuff. So check out all those videos. We got tons there. But until Wednesday, I'd say let's say goodbye. And until Wednesday, when we're back here live, enjoy your soccer.